That, Tom, just 1 week out from the first in the nation voting here in Iowa. In this build-up to the caucus, candidates are known for crisscrossing the state in a final push for support. But that's not the strategy that we're seeing from Trump. He will host official campaign events on just 2 days before voting takes place, leaning on surrogates with familiar names like his son, Eric Trump. Now, I spoke with Eric a couple days ago, and he told me point blank, in 2016, the campaign did not know what they were doing, but that they're singing a different tune 8 years later. In key swing states, the campaign also believes there's an increasingly small group, a small margin of people who are actually still true undecided voters. They chalk that up to about 11% of individuals, of voters in key swing states are actually still undecided. And so when we talk about an unconventional week for the former president in terms of not hitting key battleground states or instead having an interview with an online streaming platform as opposed to, the conventional battleground campaigning that you'd expect around this time. This is a unique play from the campaign where they're trying to really target who they believe are the true persuadables in this election. In reality, it was U.S. taxpayers who bared the brunt of the cost, not Mexico. Ultimately, under a Trump administration, only 453 miles of border wall were addressed, most of which were reinforcements. Only 47 miles of new barrier were added under Trump. But still, residents here say they felt more secure back then. In terms of criticism and attacks on Vice President Harris, we have been seeing the same ones hit over and over again in Trump's stump speeches over the past few weeks. He continues to go after her on the border, calling her a failed border czar. We also see him continue to criticize her energy policy and say that she's not a trusted and respected world leader. Now, on the subject of Vice President and this debate about the debate, we've been speaking with Trump supporters here today, asking them, do they want to see Donald Trump take the debate stage? And does it have to only be Fox? Do they consider watching it on another network? Do they ultimately just want to see Trump and Harris take the debate stage? They said yes. Take a little listen to more of that.
Jake, we have Trump's latest pitch to women voters. It's getting some new pushback today. So what can you tell us about this?
Yeah, look, Alex, the issue of abortion has plagued Republicans, electorally at least, since Roe v. Wade was overturned back in the summer of 2022. And on Friday, through a Truth Social post, we saw former President Trump attempt to retune his language a bit on the issue, saying he would be great for women and their reproductive rights. Now, this particular phrasing, it's interesting because the words reproductive rights are often used by Democrats in reference to abortion access associated with birth control and IVF, and many anti-abortion or pro-life activists were quick to criticize the former president's language, saying he was attempting to ingratiate himself with those that are pro-abortion. Looking at Donald Trump tonight here in New Hampshire, I think I had two big takeaways. One was that he was very pleased with the election results here in the Granite State, a wide margin of victory. Secondly, he was not so pleased with Nikki Haley's speech and her saying she would not be bowing out of the race. She'd be sticking it through. Whenever he was
clearly displeased, I think it's safe to say. It was very diplomatic.
The entire time, from the moment he stepped on the stage for his victory speech, which is typically emblematic of welcoming the party in and a message of unity. He said this is not going to be a normal victory speech. And the remainder of the time, he was very staunchly critical of Nikki Haley, saying that she was an imposter, saying that she falsely claimed victory of the election. And so now, as Donald Trump looks ahead to Nevada, to South Carolina, he's finding himself in this interesting position where he's threading this needle of trying to look ahead to a general election and make this pivot, but also being stuck in a primary election where there's still a potential viable candidate.
With me now, NBC News campaign embed, Jake Traylor. He was in the crowd there in Butler, Pennsylvania. Tell us what you heard and what you saw, Jake.
Chris, that's exactly right. It was quite the harrowing scene that we saw take place. To set the scene a little bit from our perspective, from our purview, we were in the press pen, as we normally are, sort of in the center of the crowd at a typical Trump rally like it was. There were a few thousand attendees that seemed to be there. We were just a few moments into the speech. Not really much had been said yet. The former president was doing what he typically does at the beginning of a rally, giving a few pleasantries and just talking to the crowd. There were then, as exactly you described, these pops that we seemed to hear. Again, unclear if it was fireworks, if it was gunfire. We are unsure of what exactly it was. Of course, then we heard the shots. There was so many things happened so quickly, but also it felt like it happened so slowly too. We heard the shots. Immediately, I saw with my own eyes Trump go down pretty quickly. I also saw the crowd kind of go down. Everyone in the press pen went down, and we were all just covering each other. And although that lasted, a handful of seconds, that felt like a very long time. I then, once the shots were over and we could see that the Secret Service had jumped on top of the former president, that's when I was able to perch my head up just a bit and directly see the former president in his ear that was then bleeding. As we now know, he was nicked. But I saw his ear bleeding. I heard the shouts from the crowd, a lot of fear, a lot of uncertainty, a lot of unknownness.
Most likely, yeah. He'll be there. Yeah, I think we have a lot of people coming. There's a lot of interest, tremendous interest in the debate. And, when you say prep, I think this is prepping. These people know better than anybody what they want, right?
Have you decided who your vice president is?
In my mind, yeah.
Do they know?
No, nobody knows.
That's right.
You and Donald Trump have had your fair share of negative comments about each other. In 2022, he called you untruthful and a grandstanding loser. How exactly do you explain the flip-flop that you've been accused of having when it comes to now supporting and endorsing former President Trump?
I don't call it a flip-flop, and in fact, I supported him in 16, I supported him in 20, and I talked about in 22 all the policies of his that I supported.
But you've been very vocally against him in some aspects as well in your history.
I don't agree with everyone 100% of the time about 100% of the things. I represent, again, a very independent-minded district, but look, if Donald Trump and Snoop Dogg can reconcile, so can he and I, and we've come a long way. And I'm not going to agree with everyone on everything, and I said that in my endorsement of him this cycle as well.
You did say that January 6th wiped away his legacy. Do you have a reaction to that?
I certainly didn't like it, and I talked about it then. And
President Trump, will you still participate in the ABC debate?
Say it.
Do you still plan to participate in the ABC debate?
Well, I watched this weekend, and it's the worst of all networks. George,
President Trump, would you want the microphones muted in the debate whenever you're not speaking?
we agreed to the same rules. I don't know. It doesn't matter to me. I'd rather have it probably.
President Trump, are you considering appointing RFK Jr. as your health secretary if you're reelected?
Say it what?
Are you considering RFK Jr. as your health secretary if you're reelected?
Well, we haven't talked about it, but he knows a lot about the subject.
President Trump, yesterday J.D. Vance said he believes November will be a free and fair election. Do you believe that to be the case?
I think J.D. Vance is doing a fantastic job. Yes. The courts.
President Trump, do you think Jewish people who vote Democrat hate their religion? Do you think Jewish people who vote Democrat?
I think that the Democrats have been very, very opposed to Jewish people.
The former president met yesterday with Prime Minister Orban. Do you know what exactly was discussed during that meeting?
I wasn't there.
Have you spoken with the former president about that meeting at all?
No, I haven't.
Have you spoken with him since the State of the Union?
Oh yeah, of course. Yes.
What have you guys discussed since then?
Oh, we always discuss many things.
Prime Minister Orban has been known for anti-Semitic remarks, close ties to Russia. Do you think anything about that type of rhetoric is something a president like former President Trump should be aligning himself with?
You don't mind if I go off teleprompter like a lot, do you? So much more exciting.
At a Trump rally, it's often his spur-of-the-moment remarks that make news.
You know, one thing about running, you do need a little bit of a personality.
That personality, one of his top draws among supporters.
He's going to do what he's going to do.
He's sarcastic, he's funny, and I love him.
But what lies between the lines of Trump's comedic chops and meme-like banter are his actual plans if re-elected to the White House. And if you listen, Trump tells the crowd exactly what he hopes to accomplish. A more aggressive and ambitious version of his 2016 platform, including some policies he didn't get through in his first term. A record-setting deportation of immigrants, eliminating the Department of Education, a hardline approach on global affairs, and an extreme crackdown on crime, camping out in their cars and tents to ensure their front row status. They call themselves the Front Row Joes.
We try to come prepared. We bring warm weather clothes. I didn't bring anything for my head, so that's why I've got a towel wrapped around my head.
Sharon Anderson and Mike Boatman lead the group of roughly 50 ultra-dedicated Trump supporters who first banded together in 2015. Upending their normal lives, they road trip across the country to as many Trump events as possible. The former president himself recently taking notice.
Look at the front row Joes. Will you stand up? These people, they follow me all over the place. They're the greatest. But you know what? They love our country.
Mike just attended his 83rd Trump event. And though he lives paycheck to paycheck, says he spent thousands of dollars to make this lifestyle possible, traveling as far as Alaska for a rally last year.
The Alaska trip cost quite a bit, but it's not about the money, really. I mean, I'm not rich, but it's supporting Donald Trump, showing my loyalty to Donald Trump.